Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Louder Than the Fridge. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I'm Taylor LeBlanc.
I'm Justin Pinio.
And joining us, we have Rahul Patel.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
That's how I say your last name, right?
Pretty close.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, you did all right.
It's the first name you kind of fucked up.
We all,
It's a hard name to pronounce.
I got no.
I've known you for 3 years, and I kind of just roll over it like, bro.
99% of the people I
we
know.
always reach peak racism in like the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Good to know it's downhill from here.
So there we go, doing all right.
Okay, so yeah, we have Rahul on. He's a friend that I worked with a little while ago. Maybe talk a little bit about you and music.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been playing instruments since, middle school. And I picked up guitar and stuck with it since. But I mean, nothing serious, just jamming with friends, or learning at home.
I mean, that's the most fun thing about instruments.
Ultimately,
right?
if that's what you get out of it, what else can
It's
you
just
ask
fun
for?
to play,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we've jammed with you a couple times. It's always been a blast.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Okay, yeah. We have a tall task today.
Yeah, so we brought Rahul in for a reason, and it's not because of friendship. It's purely okay. We've decided that for this third episode of our podcast, we'd want to take a look at power trios in rock and roll. It's
I don't know if necessarily power trios is the right word, but rock's greatest trio.
yeah.
So how are you guys defining a trio? Is there like a specific setup?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some website's definition of trios.
So we looked into it and, search up greatest power trios on Google, see what comes up. For us, power trio or trios, 3 people.
Yeah,
Bar none.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like that should make sense.
So we open up one list and they're listing like Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, the Doors and stuff like that. And we're just like, what's going on?
I guess they're just like, oh, Robert Plant isn't a musician because he sings, which is the dumbest thing in the world. Because Robert Plant, if you're going to include any singer, which you always should, in the definition of a musician, Robert Plant is A1.
He's up there, yeah, for sure.
I don't get that, not considering singers musicians. Like, is Ella Fitzgerald not a musician?
No, it didn't make sense to us, and I don't think they were very reputable websites, to be honest.
Not really, but I think the perspective they're going for is like the music itself is 3 instruments, and then you have a singer going on top of it, and it's kind of holds true in both cases. But to us, we said, okay, we're gonna look really at like 3 people in the band. One of them has to sing while playing their instrument, type of thing.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we've taken a list of 16 rock trios, and it was incredibly hard. Me and Justin sat down like it was a draft.
Yeah.
And had the worst that we thought and picked to get to 16 and stuff. So we've filed it down. Should I read the list?
Yeah. So I guess we should start with the honorable mentions that didn't make it. So it was really hard to get everything down to 16, but we had to cut a few, but we figured, they were in contention. Let's at least give them a shout out, because everyone wants a shout out from the local honorable baritones.
Them crooked vultures are all listening, thinking please be us.
Give me that shout out, boys.
The amount of listens they'll get after this shout out.
Oh yeah,
At
We
least
should
one.
kind of ask for a cut of that streaming.
At least one, and I can promise you it's me. Okay, so let's go through.
You got the list, or
I have the list here of the bands that we unfortunately had to cut. James Gang,
yeah, they're a good one, but really to us, we were looking at bands that had important legacies,
impact,
a lot of impact, a decent amount of hit songs, great musicians, and really, I think where they were lacking was the hit songs. They had some good ones.
Okay,
no doubt,
they
but,
were solid, but
name a James Gang song other than Funk 49.
Yeah,
can you do
the
it?
one with a really long name? ABC.
I'll give you half a point for that.
Yeah. So them Crooked Vultures, I love them. I think you really like them as well.
Yeah,
maybe
I don't know about you, Ro.
Don't know this.
Yeah, they're great. Problem is, for a greatest rock trios of all time, they have one album. They were a super group, so it kind of just...
It's hard to include them on this list when they had such a short legacy.
Exactly. Like they've been rumored to be working on a second album, but at the moment they are, a project that 3, already established musicians got together for one great album.
Yeah. Great album.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it feels wrong to include them.
This one hurt me, especially because we've been Veritones has been compared to this band, Wolf Mother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I like Wolf Mother. They're a lot of fun, but when we were talking about this, you said name another band other than Joker and the Thief and Woman.
Woman, yeah, and there's that, and also in terms of like legacy, I don't think there's that many bands that are going out there like, really, I attribute all my passion for music to Wolf Mother.
And they're pretty recent too, right? So it might just be a matter of time.
Who knows? In 20 years, people will be listening back to this absolute gem of a podcast, being like, "Wow, these guys were dead wrong." Slaps.
We're gonna have to make retroactive apologies and stuff.
In 10 years, just be like, "Man, we fucked up."
We'd like to apologize. We have Wolf Mother on the podcast.
Honestly, I think we'll have to make more apology podcasts than the original podcast.
Next one is Triumph.
Yeah, great Canadian band.
I hadn't honestly listened to them that much until we were kind of coming together with this list.
Yeah.
And I listened to them. They were kind of one of the bands that I first said, like, oh, okay, they don't deserve to be on the list. I listened to them like, oh, they're good, though.
Oh, yeah.
They are good.
Yeah.
But just it doesn't match up to the rest of the list.
Yeah, I think they're not there in terms of legacy, in terms of hit songs and stuff.
I think the same goes for Taste, too.
Yeah,
also,
Taste is the next
great
one.
band. Like, all these bands are awesome bands. No one can ever refute that.
Yeah.
Someone probably could, but screw that person.
Yeah. Screw that person.
Other than that, we just have our lineup.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing today is slapping all these bands into a bracket website.
Yeah, we're just going to randomize the bracket and see what happens.
And then pit 2 bands against each other. And, everyone always says that music is super objective and you can decide based off of, facts and logic. So we're going to do that.
So wait, before we go to that, what made the split? Like, what makes a band good? Like, what's going to make a band win in their bracket? Like, is it their live stuff? Is it their album recordings?
So that's the thing. I was going to, because you can split this list in different ways. Yeah. Most impactful, most important.
Yeah.
We kind of you can't look at all those options. So we're kind of going off of more
just
what we
kind of
think the best is. And yes, this is a very subjective thing. And everyone is going to be mad no matter what.
Oh, for sure. Now, that being said, I think there's some criteria we should probably agree on beforehand going into this. So we've said some of them. So like impact / legacy is going to be a big one. How many other artists did they influence, with their music? Commercial success. I don't think it's going to be like the be all end all, but it should be considered. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. And like musicianship, I think comes into play. Like if you got a band that, had a bunch of hit songs, but they're all like 3-chord songs versus, some other ones, it should be factored in.
It definitely will be. And our own bias is inevitable, right?
For sure, yeah.
So, okay. You guys ready for the list?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. Starting, I'm just going to read the list down, no particular order.
Yeah.
Cream, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Green Day, Rush, Stevie Vaughan and Double.
Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble.
Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. You read this fucking. Yeah, fine. You take the list. I don't want the list anymore.
Grand Funk Railroad, ZZ Top, Nirvana, The Police. This is written as Thorogood, but George Thorogood. Motorhead, Genesis, Fleetwood Mac in their original lineup, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, REM, and Mountain.
Isn't Grand Funk Railroad more than 3 people, though?
So they started off as 3 people, and then like later in their career, they got a keys player. So I guess technically from that standpoint, we should exclude we're an American band from that conversation. But
I still
think they have enough or prior to that they deserve to be here.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. The bracket. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole bracket. We're just going to go one by one.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good time to start.
Yeah, let's do it.
First matchup, The Police and Rush.
Okay.
So,
So I think we should talk about both bands as we're going through this, not just immediately, easy pick.
100%.
Yeah. So I guess we can start it off talking about Rush. So we're all Canadians.
Yeah.
Rush holds, a certain status in our great country.
Yeah.
I used to always poke fun at Neil Peart for having 8,000 drums and 8,000 cymbals. One of the best drummers.
Oh, absolutely.
He's for sure top 10.
Yeah.
Right? Good. And that will be taken into argument.
Yeah, my point is made.
Valid point, Justin.
Okay, but they had such an amazing legacy for a decent amount of time.
Yeah,
they put out amazing music.
They toured for over 40 years. And, if thinking about Rush, obviously Neil Peart is an amazing drummer, but Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee were amazing musicians in their own right.
Geddy Lee, some people just hate him. And I get it with that falsetto kind of nasally sound.
Yeah, his voice can be tough to love
but you
sometimes,
can't not say that he's a technical singer.
Oh, yeah.
You have to admit that he is an amazing singer.
And to do all that while playing the bass lines that he does is really
exactly.
incredible.
And they go into their kind of math, I guess, derivative break. I know it was pre-math rock and that kind of stuff, but it's a lot of very interesting syncopations and timing and that kind of stuff.
Quintessential prog rock band, in my opinion. There's some other prog rock bands on here that we'll get into later, but I think it's hard for me to say that anyone did it better than Rush. And there's a lot of people who would agree with that.
100%.
A lot of people who wouldn't. But you got to focus on the positives, right?
Anyways, now going to The Police.
The Police, yeah.
I'm a huge fan of The Police.
Okay.
Their drummer that I literally just forgot the name of. Stuart Copeland. Thank you.
I could have said anything, and I think you would have been like, "Yep."
No, I knew it was Stuart Copeland.
Yeah. Ronald McDonald.
I think it was a Hamburglar.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
But he is truly a great drummer.
Oh, absolutely.
He just, he is the reason why people kind of consider The Police reggae rock.
Yeah.
Is because of his playing. And people can say that's good or it's bad or it's cultural stealing or whatever, but they really did do it well, and they did it well for a decent amount of time.
They had a very particular sound. You hear a Police song, it's the Police immediately.
They're like U2, but less white.
Yeah, you hear boom, 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 rock.
Do you only know Roxanne and Message in a Bottle?
Every Breath You Take as well. It's a song by them.
I almost forgot that one.
And that's a nice segue into, they had some great, very successful songs.
Really successful.
Oh, dude, their first album, Regatta de Blanc, amazing stuff. Ghost in the Machine, all very musical and very intricate. And then they also had those singles that they put on top. Very good band.
Yeah.
Up against Rush.
Yeah. So for me, on the flip side of Rush's songs, you had a lot of really great songs that were great, but not typical pop songs. I mean, Tom Sawyer, Spirit of Radio, Limelight and stuff. That's all very impressive music compositions. It's not 3-chord simple shit. It's prog rock, but it still made it big for what they were able to accomplish.
Also, Rush did this cool thing where they would make sonatas, right? Mm-hmm. Where one instrument is the focus and is showing off, and everyone else is just playing support to them.
Yeah.
Whether that's even sometimes Geddy Lee's vocal lines are supporting Neil Peart's drumming.
Yeah.
It's such a hard balance to strike, and they did it incredibly well.
Yeah. So to me, of these two bands, both had, commercial success. Police probably had a little bit more.
Yeah.
To me, Rush, they were one of the most musically ambitious bands and one of the bands that did it the best. They're going to be my pick for sure of these two.
And I would agree with that personally.
Yeah.
They unfortunately, as much as I like the Police, I'm sorry, it's Rush.
It's got to be Rush. Do you agree, Rule, or disagree?
Personally, for me, it's the Police, just because of like the personal impact or like how much I've listened to them over Rush.
You forgot the name of the band.
That's how little I listen to them.
I think you're like gonna be on the RCMP's watch list now for saying you haven't listened to that much Rush.
Ooh, what are you gonna do? Lose your citizenship. Okay, I mean, this is why we have 3 people on, right? Because we will always have a definite winner.
Yeah. So we knew that Taylor and I would just agree to, or we would not agree forever, and it would just nothing would get accomplished.
Split the vote.
Yeah. So I mean, I appreciate your input. It's not valid.
That's why I was so comfortable giving it.
Okay, so we're gonna put them, and then next we have Nirvana versus Motorhead.
Oh, okay. This is a juicy one. I think I know or you're not a huge fan of either band, are you?
I've become okay. Here's my experience with Nirvana.
Yeah.
When I was 10, I went into HMV in the Von Mills Mall when HMV still existed.
Yeah.
And I purchased Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Foo Fighters' Greatest Hits, and Nirvana's Nevermind.
Yeah.
And I got home and I was so excited to listen to Nirvana because I put on, of the 3 on the way home, my mom's just like, well, listen to one of your albums. And I put on Blood Sugar Sex Magic for some reason, thinking that would be the most acceptable one for my mom to listen to.
Yeah.
And she wasn't super impressed.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the way it is. Got me into drums and stuff. But I got home, put in Nevermind, and I played it all the way through. And I sat there like, I hate this.
Oh, really?
Because I think I was just too young to get it.
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't angsty yet.
How old were you?
10, like around 10, right? 9, 10.
You need some teenage angst for Nirvana.
100%. So I kind of I listened to it a couple more times, and every time I would listen to it, I'd be like, I hate this.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to high school and people were wearing like Nirvana shirts and stuff, I would always just be like, yeah, I hate Nirvana. By the end of high school, I went back, listened to a bunch of Nirvana. I was like, okay, they're really good.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to say that I hate Nirvana to trigger other people.
Taylor's got to be edgy.
Is Kurt Cobain going to be a guest on this podcast?
Maybe one day.
We're going to drive to Seattle to dig up his corpse.
Oh,
just
God.
graveyard noises.
Okay, now both of you are on lists.
Yeah.
But I have, and like, you know, I screwed with Justin a bit too, saying like, you know, making jokes about Nirvana, saying they're garbage. Nirvana's a great band.
Yeah, for sure.
And their impact is not to be reckoned with.
No, yeah.
Like, they had a huge cultural impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even to this day, like you said, like people still wear that smiley face shirt. And,
Oh,
like,
everywhere.
not even know what it means, just because like that. It's associated with cool.
Yeah. It's edgy. It's gonna make my dad not like me.
Yeah. And it's well deserved.
Yeah.
Like, they really did kind of kickstart grunge.
Yeah, they propelled grunge into, you know, the peak of what it was. You know,
I mean, like, you know, we have another band on here later that was an influence and stuff, and the Pixies too were a huge influence.
Yeah, but in terms of like what really put grunge on everyone's global radar, it was Nirvana. Like, there's some bands that were playing grunge before that, sure, but no one did it like Nirvana.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and another thing to mention, they had some of the greatest songs ever. I mean, like, Kurt Cobain was a fantastic songwriter. Conveyed emotion like very few people have ever been able to.
Well, even on the songs that like aren't very well written, they're still good songs. Where Did You Sleep Last Night?
Yeah.
There's like 2 verses that just kind of cycle back and forth, but it's Kurt Cobain's emotion that he like puts out when he's singing that makes that song not boring and still interesting.
Yeah, no. And you know, as a singer, he's able to do that. And then that's completely separate from, you know, the lyrics he wrote and everything. And even just the energy they put out. Like, it was very like, fuck everything. I don't care. Like, we're just doing our thing.
We're going to go on to the MTV Awards and play Rape Me instead of Smells Like Teen Spirit and just like smash shit.
Yeah.
Like, they had the energy that every 13-year-old wants.
Yeah. Yeah. Any thoughts, Rahul?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like cultural impact, I would say like it's just the biggest almost.
Oh yeah, it's hard to argue with it, you know. Then we go to Motorhead. And I'll let you talk about Motorhead first.
So Motorhead, I think, match Nirvana in terms of impact and legacy, because every single metal band out there will list Motorhead as one of their influences. Like, they were one of the first to, you know, play music that heavy. Like, it
was balls to the wall metal at the time.
Yeah. Oh,
even still.
Yeah. Even still, it's metal, but at the time, that's got to be one of the, you know, heaviest things out there. Like, they kind of mixed, you know, the heavy metal of like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath with a lot of the punk rock energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have some really cool songs. I mean, most people know Ace of Spades, probably from, I think it was on Guitar Hero. Yeah, exactly. They got some other good ones, like Overkill is a really great song and album. Yeah.
And so this past week when we were making this list, Motorhead was one of the bands that I kind of put on the cutting floor, and Justin talked me out of it.
Yeah.
And since then, I have been listening to Motorhead at least once a day.
Yeah.
Trying to get into them, and I haven't been able to. Now, this is just a personal bias. They are good. I don't dispute that. I just, to me, the singer sings every single song the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Lemmy was not a very technical singer. Even people could argue he wasn't a very good singer, but he had one of those character voices. Like, you hear
it fit the band really well.
It fit the band really well. You hear it, you know exactly who he is. And he was a rock star icon. Like, in terms of rock star personalities, I think he's up there with, you know, your Keith Richards, your Jimmy
100%.
Pages, Robert Plants, Jimi Hendrix's.
The other thing too, and I know the drummer's very good, but he plays beat bitch so much.
Yeah.
You know, he's just kind of there doing his job.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he's ready to clock out at times. You know, he's doing a solid job.
Oh, yeah.
He's just not doing anything other than what's required. He's not kind of adding much. But I know I've seen some videos of him playing live and stuff. He is a very good drummer.
Oh, for sure.
But on the records stuff,
Another thing that's really cool to mention about Motorhead is they had 17 albums, I think it was.
That's just ridiculous.
That many?
It might not be 17, but it was definitely double digits. It might even be more. Here, let's look it up, just because I might be pulling it.
As you're pulling that up, Rahul, do you have any input on Motorhead? You kind of
I really just started listening to them last week. Like,
okay.
Because of this.
And like me too.
What'd you think? Like,
they go hard, but it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So let's see. Wikipedia getting the quality sources. Discography. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 albums. So I was 5 short. But yeah.
Is that like including like re-releases?
On our podcast, we have quality content like counting.
Yeah. When we're big, we can get young Jamie to do it. Now we gotta do it ourselves.
Or Jamie or Red Band or something.
But 22 albums, and that was not including live or compilation or greatest hits. That was all studio albums. Like,
damn, they fucking
that's gotta be said. Like, they put out music throughout their career. Definitely. Now, that being said, and I am a big Motorhead fan, and I know Dave Grohl would have a hard time hearing this. I gotta go Nirvana. I think they come out on top, just in terms of, you know, the songs, what it meant at the time,
the impact it had on everyone.
Yeah, and just cultural, historical, they tick all the boxes, really.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Nirvana.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly because metal's not really like my genre that I really listen to a lot, but still, like you said, cultural impact, commercial success, like it's just ridiculous what they were able to accomplish.
And I think anyone would be hard pressed to argue with this.
Yeah.
Because Nirvana did have such a big impact that it's hard to.
Don't get it wrong. There are about like 2 million metal elitists not listening to this right now who are like, fucking pussies picking Nirvana over Motorhead. I bet you don't even listen to death metal.
Nirvana was so cool, it was cool not to like Nirvana.
Yeah.
That's when you become a success.
Yeah, that's how you know.
Okay, yeah.
Damn, we made it. It's really not cool to like Veritex.
We started out making it. Okay, so right now we have Rush and Motorhead, or Nirvana, who've made it ahead.
Yeah.
And now Cream and REM.
Okay.
Let's talk about REM first.
Okay. So when you mentioned REM, they were one of the bands I had placed on the chopping block. I was like, aren't they only known for Losing My Religion? Like, I thought that's all they were.
And then I spewed some half-accurate music history.
Yeah. Taylor goes like, oh man, they're legends of the Seattle scene. They started the whole thing. We look them up.
They technically true.
Sort of true. They're from Georgia, I think.
They moved to Seattle. Their guitarist was from Seattle.
Yeah, one band member moved to Seattle.
But that's, Seattle was the bed of like the grunge, right? Like you had Nirvana coming
the
up.
grunge.
The grunge. The grunge is my favorite.
To 101.3.
The grunge is my favorite ZZ Top song.
Damn
it. But they did have, as much as they have just their hits and that kind of stuff, and they have a decent amount of hits.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And were pretty damn popular, but they did they influenced Nirvana.
Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. And to be fair, they had a lot more hits than I thought they did. Like, again, I thought it was just Losing My Religion. But when we looked them up on Apple Music, I just looked through the top songs. Like, oh, I know this one, this one, this one. I can't name all of them offhand, but I know, like, End of the World as We Know It was one. Everybody Hurts.
Man in the Moon? No, that's the Andy Kaufman movie. Something in the moon. In the moon. The moon.
This is Taylor LeBlond at his finest. Yeah. Just like, I can guarantee the song has the word moon in it.
Yeah.
from this
I have an approximate knowledge of many things.
Yeah. But yeah, they had more, hits than I thought, and a lot of songs that I liked than I thought. And I didn't know about the whole connection to the grunge scene. When you said that, I looked it up because I was like, oh man, you're so full of shit. It's ridiculous. It was half true. Yeah. But yeah, they had
that was true. It wasn't half true. They did have a huge influence on the grunge scene.
They started the Seattle scene. They had an influence. I don't know if it's like they started.
Okay, all the bands that came out of Seattle pegged them as their influence.
Yeah. So that they had an influence. To say they started it, I think.
Okay, we've already had this argument off mic. We'll have it again off mic later.
But I fully acknowledge they had a big influence. I mean, for all the bands of that music scene to be like, oh yeah, we fucking love REM, like that means something.
100%.
Now,
Rule, do you have any input on REM?
Again, not something I really listened to growing up or anything. But yeah, like I can't really provide any input on that.
I mean, I'm sure you know their hits. And
Losing My Religion is the only one.
Losing My Religion, like
they had some great songs. Don't strike me as the most like technical band.
No, definitely not.
Like in terms of musicianship, wasn't amazing. It was still cool. Like cool songs. Now they're against Cream.
Yeah.
Who starts with Cream?
Okay,
who wants to go first?
I mean, we can go back to, I wasn't huge into Cream until I joined the band and me and you started hanging out. And then I started to really get into Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
Ginger Baker. And my drumming style has changed after listening to a lot of Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
Because he's such a melodic drummer.
Oh, he had a very definitive style that he's one of those drummers, it's him.
And like I don't know if this sounds mental or not, but there's
Probably,
certain
but
drummers that can put an implied melody on their playing. Listen to been Sunshine of Your Love.
Sunshine of Your Love. Yeah,
Listen
their
to
biggest song.
when Clapton is doing his solo and they go over the chorus.
Yeah.
The way Ginger Baker's playing, you almost hear the original melody because of the way he's playing. Like there's such an implied melody by the way he's playing, and he has definitely changed my drumming.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And that's my biggest focus with the band, and it's huge. Like it's been a huge influence on me.
Yeah. Now, when I think of Cream, I'm thinking obviously as a guitar player, Eric Clapton.
Absolutely, yeah.
What needs to be said about him? One of the greatest guitar players
and
of
like
all
the
time.
best he ever was, I think. Right?
I think I 100% agree. Cream to me is the best Clapton era. Like that's when he was at his prime. You know,
maybe challenged with Derek and the Dominoes, in my opinion. But
I still go Cream. Like I think in terms of how raw and passionate his playing was at the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you think about when that happened in his career, he left the Yardbirds because they started becoming a little too pop for him. He wanted to be a blues purist.
Yeah, ironic considering his like later career.
Yeah, he leaves that, joins John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and they were a pure blues band. And I think he got a little bored of that. And he's like, okay, start a supergroup. And they were one of the first supergroups ever. Like they had, these people who were fixtures of the London scene. They all got together and wrote these great songs, and they were amazing players. Like best drummers of all time, Ginger Baker's going to be up there. Best guitarist of all time, Eric Clapton's going to be up there. Best bassist of all time, Jack Bruce is going to be up there. Best singers, probably not. But it was still great.
Really great voice.
Oh, yeah, great
he
voice.
did the job well.
Oh, for sure.
Like no one can argue with that. And because we were talking about this with when we were talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers with John Frusciante, and how Flea and Chad Smith hold down the rhythm section so well that John Frusciante can just float over top.
Yeah.
Now there's 3 members in the band.
Yeah.
And it's Jack, right?
Yeah.
Jack's the bassist. Jack and Ginger Baker just hold down so well that like Eric can just solo.
Yeah.
He can just do whatever he wants on top. And sometimes that changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's Eric Clapton and Jack holding it down.
Yeah.
And then Ginger Baker is doing this and then
sometimes Clapton and Ginger lock in, and then Jack Bruce plays these super sweet bass lines.
Yeah.
Like they had a really great band chemistry, which is kind of amazing considering their personal chemistry was notoriously terrible. Like they were a band for 3 years and they were top of the world at the time, but
what did they put out? 3, 4 albums?
2, I thought.
I think 3 studios.
Fresh Cream.
3 Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, and
Wheel of Fire,
and then Goodbye Cream. So 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think it lasted from like 66 to 68.
Yeah, it was only like 1.5, 2 years.
Yeah.
That they were together, and they still have such a legacy.
Oh yeah, I think that speaks volumes to how great they were.
I kind of went down like a Cream rabbit hole, and like
It's hard
every
not
single
to.
one of their songs feels like a part of a jam session. Like they're just out there having fun, just ripping it the entire time. Like all their songs have a live feel.
Yeah.
And that's like something I think they like really specialize in. I think it was Disraeli Gears that was like a double LP, and one side was like a regular album, the other side was
Wheels
the
of
live.
Fire.
Wheels of Fire was the one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just such a big part of their sound. I feel like.
It was incredible how great they were as musicians and
how
playing together.
well-
And one thing they really pioneered was extended improvisation on stage for a rock band. I mean, jazz bands have been doing it forever, but they really took that to the rock format.
Yeah.
And who better?
They played off of each other so well.
Like they have so many songs that it's like they took an old blues song, they stretched it out to like over 10 minutes. And me as a musician, I'm listening to it. I'm loving every minute of it. I'm sure, people who listen to top 40s will be like, oh, fuck, will they move on already? But, like, I love it. I think it's great.
And like, you listen to one of those long improvs of music, when they're kind of trading off and stuff. And when you're listening to, you're like, every note has to be planned.
Yeah.
Like it's so good that every note, they must have spent like, okay, we're going to spend next 2 weeks working on Sunshine of Your Love and how we're going to extend that for live. No, they were just all such solid musicians that they just played off of each other.
They just did it. And to me as a guitar player, like speaking specifically to this, I've said it before and I fully believe it. I've never heard Eric Clapton play a wrong note.
No,
like
you never will.
Yeah,
dude will be in his deathbed still rocking guitar solo.
No, like it. I think in terms of this matchup, Cream. 100%.
I can't say anything but Cream.
Yeah, unanimous. Yeah. It's hard to argue.
I would
with
imagine the guys in REM would agree with us.
Moving on to the next one, we have Thorogood and Mountain.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting one.
Two ones that I'm less familiar with.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you talk a bit about it because I'm going to grab another beer.
Okay. Do you want to grab me one too?
Yes.
Yeah. You good? So yeah, when Thorogood and Mountain were two bands that when we were trying to whittle it down, we considered them. They were on the chopping block.
Okay.
But what really kept us going, Thorogood, surprising amount of like great songs that had a lot of commercial success. I mean, you think like you got Bad to the Bone, One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer. There's others. I'm blanking right now, but like looking through the list, it was like, oh, I've heard this on classic rock radio. I've heard this on classic rock radio.
And all bangers. Like his... Thank you.
Taylor opens his beer as far away as possible. It's just right into the mic.
But like I kind of went on a Thorogood rabbit hole last week. And every song I listened to, I loved. Like it's just he has such a vibe to the way he plays and the way he sings. Like you listen to his version of One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer.
Yeah.
So fun. It's like 8-9 minutes or something, and most of it he's just kind of you have this going the whole time. He's just telling a story like, my landlord kicked me out and the rent was not there. And I said, I'll get you the rent. I'll get a job. I didn't get a job. Like, that summarizes 95% of this song. Yeah. But he just does it in a way that's fun to listen to. And he has such a distinct voice. And his guitar playing, meh. Like, it's good.
He relied a lot on his hero, John Lee Hooker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone's going to be out here saying George Thorogood changed the game guitar playing wise. But he was a great guitar player. And in terms of white guys who got that blues feel down, he's up there. Like,
and he did kind of go the old school blues fashion. You can tell because most of these songs are covers of old school blues.
Yeah.
But, he does rely on the storytelling and the actual story of the song as opposed to like, okay, I'm going to rip a sick solo right here, play this game-changing riff. No, I'm just going to entertain you. I'm just going to let myself speak, and that'll be the art as opposed to like, and like back myself up on guitar and have this backing.
I feel like that's what like blues was like all about, right? Like think about Crossroads. Like that's just about a man going to the crossroads, selling his soul to the devil. Like blues was about storytelling. For
you're leaning into the story, the mystique about it. And, he paid his respects to the traditions of blues really well. And that's a lot of what blues is. I mean, like how many people out there have gone to like a blues bar and you hear that same old like 12-bar blues all night and like 50 different songs. It's still fun. Like some people find it a little irritating, but
as long as there's something on top, like you can be a band and only ever play 12-bar blues and still do good music. There are a lot of bands that did that, but as long as you have stuff on top that makes it interesting, makes it dynamic, like you can do a good job.
It travels forward for sure. Now, on the flip side, Mountain. So in terms of the word power trios, I think they're one of the bands that really exemplify that really well. I mean, I won't go out and say they're the best power trio ever, but they really helped cement that style. I think where they kind of struggle, and I'll say this as an anecdote, I went to like go listen to some Mountain, and what I've been doing for a lot of these bands I wasn't as familiar as, I'd go on Apple Music and they have like the like artist essentials playlist.
Okay, yeah.
So they didn't have one for Mountain. and I wasn't able to like find a greatest hits album. So I said, okay, what are their top songs?
All the first album.
No. It was even crazier than this. And I will bring it up just to show you guys because it's pretty hilarious.
Spotify's all their first album is their top.
Here is their top songs. It's just all Mississippi Queen from different albums. One page, two.
Oh my god! Their top 8 songs
are different versions of Mississippi Queen.
And that 8 is when it stops. It could be 12. It could be 20.
It goes on further. So they were a one-hit wonder for sure, and they had other great songs. But name a mountain song other than Mississippi Queen.
I listened to their first album a couple times in the past week, but, you know, and you do feel like they're kind of going balls to the wall at all times. Like, they're always kind of pushing.
Yeah.
And that's fun. But, you know, I don't think they could ever replicate the success that they had with Mississippi Queen.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, that song blew up for, you know, in terms of their band, for sure.
In the past, and then again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's weird to address, but Guitar Hero 3, Heroes of Rock, definitely impacted our generation.
Oh, yeah,
you
definitely.
know, you're 23, I'm 24, you're 23.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big part of our childhood.
Yeah, that's like where I first heard Barracuda.
Yeah,
I can't stop listening to that song.
And regardless of whether or not you owned it, your friend owned it, and then you'd go play it. Like,
Slow Ride. Oh my god, that was such a fun song to play on that.
Oh, for sure. That was a huge part of our lives growing up.
Yeah.
And it was really great to give us this connection to music that it's possible that otherwise we'd be like, oh, it's too fucking old.
I mean, I probably wouldn't know Mountain if not for that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think for me, same thing. Now, where I think Mountain do, you know, come back from the whole one-hit wonder thing, they had a decent amount of influence. I've heard a lot of like newer rock bands cite Mountain as an influence. And a fun story is Ozzy Osbourne. Every guitarist that would come through his band, he would buy them a Gibson Les Paul Jr. because he said, oh, the best guitar sound I ever heard was Leslie West from Mountain playing one of these.
Really?
A junior.
Yeah, Les Paul Jr. So,
like the one I got in the other room.
Exactly, yeah. So it's essentially, it was intended for students at the time when it was released, but it's slab of wood, one P90 pickup, one volume, one tone. Dead simple, but it is
one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. Cheers. Sorry, I just had to intrude with that.
But yeah, for all you guitar fans out there, you know Gibson Les Paul Jr. is a lean, mean rock machine. Yeah. And no one did it better than Leslie West. So I think that's where they cement their place in this whole thing, is their influence on other people.
Now, with these two, I kind of struggle because neither are two bands that I'm like super into or anything. I don't really have a strong opinion.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I would rather be in a bar listening to George Thorogood.
Yeah.
Like, you know, hitting your drink against the bar as he sings, Bad to the Bone or something, than Mountain.
Yeah.
Personally, I that's kind of how I'm approaching this, but I'm not leaning one way.
Yeah. To me, I'm going to have to go Mountain in terms of influence. I mean, George Thorogood's great, had a lot of like fun songs. Mountain had the one great one-hit wonder, but they influenced a lot of people. So to me, they're my vote.
That's fair. And this is why we have Rahul on it. All the pressure's on him now.
For me, it's going to be Thorogood, just because blues is just all I listen to, basically. As such a big fan of it, you can't go with anyone but Thorogood.
That's fair. That's completely fair. And I don't think, even Justin, who voted for Mountain, I don't think you're overly upset about that.
Definitely not, no.
You know. Moving on to the next one.
Oh, yeah.
This is an unfortunate matchup.
Okay, let's hear it.
Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
And Green Day.
So let's take it seriously. I'm going to start with Green Day. So, I was born in 1997. American Idiot came out in 2005, I think.
Yeah.
So I was...
Right when we were feeling that.
Yeah, 8 years old. Like, fuck, I loved that album.
That album was huge.
Yeah.
It was the biggest album that year, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that for a fact, but, my brother was 3 years older than me. So I was 9, I guess, when that came out. My brother was 12.
Yeah.
Peak Green Day years for him. Like, that came out at the perfect time for him, and I heard him playing it all day. And I wasn't allowed to listen to it at the time, but my brother was.
Swear words.
So I just go into my brother's room when my mom wasn't paying attention and just go sit and listen to it with him. And that album's great.
Yeah.
Like, that was the sound of a generation.
Oh,
it really was.
I mean, I still listen to Boulevard of Broken Dreams when I'm feeling down, just to get your pump back up again.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, me and my girlfriend, we were like laying in bed and we said, oh, fuck it. Let's listen to a bunch of like old pop punk songs and see how badly they aged. And, we put on some fucking Sum 41, some Blink 182.
Some Kryptonite.
Yeah, Three Doors Down. We put on Green Day. I don't think they've aged that badly.
No.
Like, for a band of that genre, I think pop punk is probably one of the styles of music that has aged the worst.
Arguably the hot topic of music genres.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to hear a grown man in skinny jeans being like, all the small things. Like, it's just rattles my stomach in a very uncomfortable way.
Blink 182 is a different story.
Yeah, definitely. But I think they are kind of the, like, defining bands of that genre.
Yeah.
And Green Day is another one. I think Green Day has aged very well comparatively. They had a lot of great songs. Now, they weren't the best musicians in terms of like technical ability or anything. But
it was pop punk, right?
It was pop punk, exactly. They had the attitude, they had the songs, and it was really cool.
One thing I find interesting about Green Day, and like one of my favorite songs by them, it's always been Basket Case. Like, I never really listened to much of them other than, American Idiot, that album. And over the last couple years, Basket Case has slowly made its way to the top of Green Day. On Spotify, it's their, like,
okay, interesting,
top song, which is surprising.
Yeah.
But, you think of Green Day, and, like, my first instinct is, do you have the time to listen to me rhyme? Like, they did have great stuff before.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
American Idiot.
I don't know that much before American Idiot. Like, that was, 8 years old is kind of, to me, when I first became a conscious human. I don't remember much.
Just barely.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like I should talk about Green Day a bit.
Yeah, because you have less appreciation for them than...
I kind of hate Green Day. I like them. I do like some of their songs and that kind of stuff, but I kind of also hate Green Day.
Goddamn hater.
Okay. This does come from a bias of, when I had my high school band, there was a pop punk band that always played the same shows as us and was always kind of a dick to us and would never stay to watch us play, but we'd always see them play, and just rude stuff like that. Common courtesy stuff that when you're 14 years old, you're like, this is the worst thing in the world. They're dicks, But so they were huge into Green Day. And even go back like 5-6 years before then, I would play with the guitarist and bassist of that band. Yeah. We had our own little thing. They always wanted to play Green Day. Okay. Every single time. Every single song they wanted to do was Green Day. And it drove me out of my mind. Yeah. Because... I'm sorry, Trey Cool's an okay drummer, but he's kind of a shit drummer. Like, he's not necessarily a shit drummer. I'm just, projecting.
You're just talking shit. But really, this is about your deep-seated personal issues.
Projected onto realistically, yes. Yeah. But he does the same thing. Yeah. He really does. And, the only song that isn't really samey is... Boulevard of Broken, or Wake Me Up When September Comes, and Boulevard of Broken Dreams. So those two songs
that aren't samey.
Yeah.
Jesus of
and
Suburbia,
Boulevard of Broken Dreams is like 2 songs.
But it's all kind of just it's all just kind of either rock beat or rock beat, but putting in more snares. Yeah. That's in my opinion. Yeah. That's a huge deterrent.
I don't think the argument for Green Day is they were great technical musicians. Like in terms of, Billy Joe Armstrong, what he was doing guitar wise, a lot of it was kind of, your pop punk power chords.
Yeah. And realistically, maybe if their lyrics or songwriting was better, they could have been viewed like Nirvana.
See, I think their strong suit is their lyrics and songwriting. Like,
really?
Yeah.
It spoke to me when I was a
I guess me too.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I've ever known. Like, that shit just, you're lying in bed like, yes! This is like lonely road!
Like, I know they're not your favorite band out there, but it means something for sure. Like, it wouldn't have gotten as big as it did if it didn't impact people in some way.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just a shame that was 13-year-olds at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, pop punk has always kind of only appealed to 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
Or 20-year-old men who never grew past the age of 13.
Yeah. See also Billie Eilish.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the things about pop punk that makes it so rough is when I see people performing it and like new pop punk bands, they're guys in their 20s doing this and it's like, oh, this is for 13-year-olds.
They have a reputation on the music scene. Yeah. That's for sure.
Now, it's a whole other beast to watch the original pop punk bands perform because they are in their 40s now.
Yeah.
For them to be like, oh, I hate my dad. I just want pizza.
It's just like, what the fuck, dude?
Now picture a real representation of modern pop bands. Pop bands.
One of the best things ever was do you guys ever watch Phineas and Ferb?
Yeah.
So the title song is like the super pop punk thing?
Yeah.
The band that performed that song, I think they're called Bowling for Soup. I watched a video of like a few years ago. They performed that live, and the dude's like in his 40s.
Oh man!
All right, I'm gonna sing the theme song to this children's television show.
Doesn't age well.
Any Phineas and Ferb fans, meet me in the van.
I got some exclusive merch that I stole from this studio. This is funny. Now I think we should move on to
who they're up against.
Grand Funk Railroad.
And this is kind of a rough matchup for Green Day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think this also speaks to just who we are as musicians. Now, Rahul, I don't know your thoughts on Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you.
You haven't started yet.
I kind of like just got into them, like literally walking here was listening to them. But they're like really fucking funky.
They are
really funky. It was so much fun to listen to. I like walked here 10 minutes faster than I normally would have.
No, and like they have their live performances were out of this world.
Now, I think really the essence of Grand Funk Railroad, I think they're one of rock's most underrated bands.
100%.
Like they were so talented. Like their guitarist Mark Farner, he was the guitar player and singer, like really great. Hardly ever gets mentioned for his guitar skills, which they were awesome. I don't know the other members of the band's names.
The singer, he deserves. Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
His singing.
He had a great voice, and to be able to do that while playing guitar, and I think that really speaks true to like the trio concept is the singer has to be playing something else at the same time, and to toot my own horn, that's not easy to do.
No, 100% it isn't. Yeah. Like. You can play Hot for Teacher on guitar.
I can't sing it at the same time.
God, no, because that's a whole different beast. You're not doing the Ozzy thing of just following the line that the guitar is doing, even though Ozzy didn't play guitar.
Yeah.
But, like, and what they were able to do. Like, they were just such a tight band. Yeah. They, in my opinion, they contest with Cream for one of the tightest trios.
Yeah, I think so, too. And, I wouldn't say they're at Cream's level, but they're really close.
Yes, 100%.
To match Cream is a very, very difficult thing. And to even get close speaks volumes to the talent they had. In terms of drummers, I think he was a great drummer. I don't think he's one of the best of all time or anything.
No, he would, he'd be 20, 30, around there kind of thing. Nice.
Now, one thing that has to be mentioned, to the 3 people listening to this, which is just us the next day. Look up Grand Funk Railroad live videos, because holy fuck, the bass tone, the sound of that bass, I think is bar none the best I've ever heard.
I would agree with that. Like we had many nights getting inebriated and watching their live sets and stuff, and they put on a show.
Oh yeah, they were great performers. And there's a kind of a fun story with the bass tones. So they used these like custom-made tube amps, the guitarist and the bassist. The bassist liked the sound of tubes that were wrong for the amp.
Whoa.
So they sounded like really nasty, but they would burn out like crazy. So they used to have a roadie wearing asbestos gloves ready to just grab the fucking burning tubes and switch out a new one whenever they like failed. Not sustainable, probably a human rights issue. But it sounded really fucking cool.
I think the Geneva Convention has that written somewhere, but
no roadies wearing asbestos gloves.
But they had a really great sound. And speaking to the underrated aspect of them, they sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles.
Yes.
Holy fuck!
Like I don't know how people forget this band. And my mom, when she was in New York with my sister, and they were at I think it's the Met, the big art place there.
The Met sounds right.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of like organs, and so it was like a music hall that they had set up and stuff.
Yeah.
And my mom and sister were taking pictures to send to me, and this other woman came and talked to them, and she was just like, and my mom started talking to her up, being like, oh, my son's really into this stuff. And she goes, oh, yeah, I'm married to the manager of Grand Funk that used to be the manager of Grand Funk Railroad in the early days.
Yeah.
And of course, my mom's there like, have you heard of the Veritones? Like,
always hustling. Yeah. Shout out to Shelly, our PR manager.
Guaranteed she did not give a single shit about it. Once my mom started saying this, she's just like, oh, I need to leave now. Yeah. But props on my mom.
That is kind of amazing, because the story of Grand Funk Railroad is their first manager actually like royally fucked them.
Yes.
Was that the lady?
My mom told me that like a couple weeks earlier. Me and you were actually just talking about that, and she said that. I was just like, oh, he's kind of a dick. Like,
he screwed them big time. Like, they had this big legal fight to get out of that contract.
Oh my god!
And then released "We're an American Band." With a keyboard player, so can't be considered for this power trios.
But
still I think amazing off of that, like they still sold out Shea Stadium. They still had some really great songs. Like "I'm Your Captain" is an awesome one that they did live and as a compilation a lot of times. Really, really cool. So what was the other band that
Green Day? So I think we'll hear from Rahul first.
Yeah, what do you think?
I gotta go with Green Day just because the amount of time I spent hate jerking to my middle school yearbook to Green Day. It's just I gotta go Green Day.
Fair enough.
That's absolutely fair.
Yeah,
Justin?
I'm gonna go Grand Funk Railroad.
And I have to join Justin.
Yeah.
And say Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
Green Day had an unfortunate matchup here.
Oh, for sure.
They deserve to make it to at least the second round.
I think so too. And they meant a lot to me when I was we
were all born the same era. They were the biggest thing at the time.
They were a definitive band. I think in terms of when we were that age, to me it's Green Day and Linkin Park. Linkin Park aren't in this. They weren't a trio, but I remember when Chester committed suicide, a lot of people from a whole bunch of different backgrounds were like, yeah, Linkin Park was a huge part of my childhood. People who listen exclusively to Drake nowadays were like, fuck, man, I loved, Linkin Park.
And that speaks to the times. And tastes evolve and whatnot, but they did speak to a generation.
Yeah, and Green Day, they were the voice of the 8-year-olds at the time. But Grand Funk Railroad, I think, is really cool. One other story before we move on is, I didn't know much about them for a long time, but once I started listening to them, I was hanging out with my dad, and my dad, he he was a teenager in the 70s. When he found out I was listening to Grand Funk Railroad, he was like, oh, fuck yes. Like, oh, you got to know all about this band. Like, he just showed me a bunch of this stuff.
Still the best compliment we've ever received as the Veritones was someone saying that you guys sound like Grand Funk Railroad.
I was stoked to hear that, for sure.
That's such a huge compliment. Obviously, they didn't mean like you guys are as good as Grand Funk Railroad. But still, great compliment, and they deserve to move on to the second round.
That. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Still going through the first round here.
Yeah.
We got Stevie Ray Vaughan.
We're still in the first round. We've done an hour.
Have we?
Wow. This is going to be a long one. This is going to be a JRE.
Stevie Ray Vaughan in Double Trouble.
Okay.
And Fleetwood Mac original lineup.
Ooh.
This is a hard one.
Spicy.
I was thinking it was going to be Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
Those are two very similar bands.
They're still coming up.
Okay. So, as a guitar player, I'll talk a little bit about Stevie Ray Vaughan first. One of greatest guitar players of all time. Really, really, really cool. And, to me, the test of a great guitar player has always been when you see them live and you think, oh, this person has complete control over their instrument. Like, they can make the guitar say whatever they want.
Yeah.
And Stevie Ray Vaughan had that for sure. Like, he made that guitar his bitch.
And let's be honest here. When we say, the trio of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, we're really kind of just talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was the band.
He was the band.
He surrounded himself with good musicians, but
not to diminish what the background was doing. They had a solid background.
Yeah, but you're really talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan here,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And now I think the one thing that really hampers them, very samey.
It's
very samey. Like, and it was a style thing. Like, at the time, he was kind of the forefront of bringing the blues back to that 12-bar blues format that, at the time people had been like experimenting, pushing it in all these different ways. He was like, oh, let's go back to basics. Keep the song simple. I'm just going to fucking rip some guitar solos.
Yeah.
Like,
to echo what you were saying, like, I remember, I don't think it was like live at Montreux. He was like on stage, ripping a fucking guitar solo, starts shaking a guy's hand while playing the guitar solo, and then keeps going. Like, who does that?
There are countless examples of stuff like that. Like, there's one where he broke a string, has his roadie come up, like, behind his back, switch on a new guitar, strap it on up. He doesn't miss a single fucking beat. Like, one of the slickest guitar players out there. And, he did some work with Bowie and stuff like that. Like, to give him credit, he, did a lot of work, but in terms of his band, very samey. And I think that holds it back. Like, he kind of has like two songs. He's got a fast one and a slow one type of thing, which it sucks. And it's very unpopular to talk shit about him as a guitar player, but I've never been able to get into him that much for that reason. Like, to me, any instrument, and guitar included, is meant to serve the song. And if your songs are the same thing, rehashed, kind of, loses some of the greatness. Now, he did Jimi Hendrix covers like
a lot.
Nobody else.
Oh yeah, a ton.
He did like Little Wing,
All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah, All Along the Watchtower.
And they weren't just covers. I feel like he really expanded on it.
Them, which, to elevate a Jimi Hendrix song,
that's a tall order.
It's a very, very tall order. I can't talk too much shit because he was an amazing, amazing, amazing guitar player.
Yes.
But I think that's always going to be something that's going to hold him back. And it was his style, but it limits the amount of interest I'll be able to have in him.
No, I very much agree. And, you went through that month where you only listened to blues music. You listened to a lot of SRV.
Yeah.
And, after listening to a bunch of them, I was just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
But it does at a point.
It gets kind of old.
Have you listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan since that month?
Not really, no.
Exactly. You know, like you kind of reach a point where you're like, I get it.
Yeah, part of the trouble is even within the blues genre, I mean, like you got guys like, Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker,
Clapton.
Albert King, Clapton, they were able to do stuff that was interesting outside of the, 12-bar blues. Like my favorite kind of blues are it's called modal blues, where it's kind of just like, it's like you got the 12-bar blues that everyone knows. And then if you think of like ZZ Top Lagrange, dun 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 dun, that's more of a modal blues type of thing. And I've always loved that a little bit more. I feel like it has more of like this badass energy to it compared to like dun 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 dun, like that's always seemed a little bit corny.
It just becomes predictable, right? And that's how you want music to be.
Absolutely, it's the most predictable music can get, really.
And again, not to diminish SRV's playing, because he was an amazing guitarist.
Oh, for sure.
But
that's all. To me, that's always going to hold them back.
Yeah, I agree. Now we get to Fleetwood Mac's original
Mac original lineup. Now, they're another pretty underrated lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Rahul didn't even know that they had existed as a trio. And this is not a slight on you or anything. Most people don't know that they were originally
most of their popular
trio.
work is with like Stevie Nicks.
Yeah. Now, Black Magic Woman. You think of Santana, right?
Yeah.
That was them. That was a cover of
Really?
Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, originally.
I did not know that.
Green Manalishi, it was like covered by Judas Priest later. That was, again, another Fleetwood Mac
They
song.
had so many songs that were covered by other people.
Yeah.
Like they did have a lasting print, even though people just think of Rumors, really, when they think of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, when they think of Fleetwood Mac, they're thinking prime era, The Chain, Rumors, Go Your Own Way, and all that stuff. It was a very different thing to what they started. You
gave 3 examples. Both of the other 2 examples you gave were on Rumors.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's what people think of when they think of Fleetwood Mac.
Which kind of speaks to how good of an album that was.
Yeah, I mean it's a top tier album.
Yeah.
It is an S tier album.
But in the context of this, we're talking original lineup, and really, if you're to distill what they were all about, they were one of the most underrated blues rock bands ever. Like they were really
100%.
great, had quite an influence, but kind of eclipsed by the later success.
By their own fame, which is not necessarily a bad thing. They just were more successful later, but they were so solid as a trio.
Oh yeah, and it's a great story. I mean, the whole reason they became the later incarnation of Fleetwood Mac that everyone knows and loves is because the original guitarist, Peter Green, who, had the idea of forming the band, he had some mental health struggles later on, moved to a cabin in the woods, didn't want anything to do with music. And I think he actually just died this year. So.
Wow.
RIP.
Thank you for paying your respects in a nice, respectful way.
Jokes aside, rest in peace, Peter Green.
Yeah.
One of the greats. And as a guitar player, great story. He had this like 1959 Les Paul that had the pickups switched the wrong way from the factory. So when it was in the middle, it was out of phase. So kind of gave this really particular sound that no one else had. Later sold that guitar to Gary Moore. He played it for decades, and now the guitarist from Metallica, or Kirk Hammett from Metallica, owns it. So it's an important part for the guitar nerds out there. They all know.
Yeah,
Grainy.
Legacy in many different ways.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, they have a live album on Apple Music. I think it's called Black Magic Woman, but it is fucking awesome. Like, I love extended blues rock jams in the style of like Cream, Hendrix. Yeah. And they do that. They take one of their songs, Rattlesnake Shake, to like 20 minutes. It's
Holy
really
crap.
fucking cool. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you have any more to input. This is kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to go Fleetwood Mac in terms of like the influence they had on other bands to cover it. Like, and you know, they had a little bit more interesting ideas from a songwriting perspective. I think like guitarist to guitarist probably goes to Stevie Ray Vaughan, but Peter Green was no slouch. Like he one of the greats as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go with Stevie Ray Vaughan just for like pure mind melting shreddingness. Like, just absolutely insane.
And I think we would all agree that either one of these bands taking it, we'd be happy.
100%. I think if it wasn't trios, I would have gone for Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
But if we're specifically talking about trios, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Fair enough.
And I think me being the deciding vote, I'm gonna go Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, okay.
Because you know, the last week I've listened to their first couple albums so many times, and it's just it's such good music and just rocks you. Like it does what it wants you to do without being samey, and that sameness does discourage me with SRV. And I'm that's a bias. That is a bias, but I think we have to go Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
And I think now maybe I need to pee.
Okay.
So we pause for a minute. We take a quick break. Then we'll come back with more.
Okay. Yeah, go for it. Okay, so where are we at?
ZZ Top and Jimi Hendrix. That's a tough one.
This is a very unfortunate
This is a tough
matchup.
one.
I think, okay, I'll start with ZZ Top. So I hadn't listened to them all that much prior to, you know, us coming up with this idea.
Same here, yeah.
Okay.
But listen to them. They had a surprising amount of songs that I knew and loved. Like before, the only one I could think of was like Lagrange, but you know, you got Sharpest Man, Give Me All Your Lovin', Cheap Sunglasses,
Tush.
Yeah, Tush, another huge one. Like they had great songs in many eras of music. I mean, I think they started late 60s, all through the 70s, 80s.
Didn't Sharpest Men come out like later? Like
I don't know enough about their history, but
they're
83. One of the most legendary bands ever, and like in terms of
for good reason,
influence, they're up there in terms of like a great bar band. They one of the best.
Could you imagine writing Tush and you're playing in a bar? It's like, you know, a dive bar. Yeah. Everyone's into it. And they all have beer, and you're playing Tush up on stage, or even Cheap Sunglasses.
Legs.
They are peak bar band.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they were awesome at it. Like Billy Gibbons, great guitar player, really cool. Influenced a lot of people. You know, you mentioned Eddie Van Halen, because I've talked about them forever for the past few weeks.
Huge influence.
Yeah, huge influence. Like the recently uncovered Pasadena High School set that they had in 75. They played a bunch of ZZ Top covers.
Yep.
Wow.
Some Rolling Stones, some other stuff too.
Deep Purple, Johnny Winter, stuff like that. But ZZ Top was a huge part of that.
I found that so cool that like that set came out and you really got to see when they were a cover band pretty much like what truly they thought their influences were.
Well, I think one of the really cool things is Eddie, as a guitar player, has always been very secretive about almost everything he does. Like, he wouldn't talk about his influence. He wouldn't talk about his gear all that much. He would give, like, knowingly false information and stuff to try to throw people off. So whenever you get an opportunity to see, like, okay, this is what he really thought or did or whatever, it's always like, okay, let me write this shit down type of thing. But yeah, ZZ Top, great feel, great energy, great songs,
great beards,
fantastic beards, number one, like S tier beards.
S tier beards.
In case anyone doesn't know, one of the best parts of that band is the only member without a beard is their drummer.
His last name is Beard.
His name is Frank Beard, and he doesn't have one. That's just peak irony.
Probably got bullied way too much.
You know, I actually heard an interview with one of the guys talking, and they like recorded the first album, played some shows live, and he didn't have a beard, and everyone thought it was funny, so he was just like, I'm never growing a beard, because this is just this is just my thing now. I'm named Beard, and I'm the only one in ZZ Top without a beard.
And that kind of leads into, they also had a great look. Like, everyone knows them for the beards, but like, they fucking dressed like superstars.
I mean, like, and you know, in the sharp dressed men era, you know, playing shows with suits on with these big burly biker looking dudes. Realistically, they look like bikers.
No, they were super cool.
Oh yeah,
it's hard to undersell how much like a look can influence so many people, right? Like even Kiss influenced Bob Dylan, like with the white face makeup when they what's that tour he was on that Scorsese directed the film for?
It's actually not very well known, but Bob Dylan was black and he would just perform in whiteface.
He was just an extra whiteface at that
time. Taylor's alternative facts. But, I know the one you're talking about. Fuck, it's blanking on me right now. But yeah, he had like clown makeup.
Yeah.
That being said, ZZ Top, great style, great songs, great musicians. And honestly, going into this, they were my pick to like make it a lot further than I would have thought initially. Like I could have seen them going to like the quarterfinals, semifinals type of thing.
And that would have happened.
And had they not been against
Jimi Hendrix Experience. This like
unfortunate matchup.
It's an unfortunate matchup. It really is. But we're here to decide the best, and unfortunately, that means that unfortunate maps. How many times can I say unfortunate?
That's really unfortunate. You're saying this word.
Hendrix Experience.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix Experience. I'll talk as a guitar player. Jimi Hendrix. Most people will consider him the greatest guitar player of all time.
I feel like he like pretty much invented the electric guitar, like using it as like a tool.
No one had played it like him at the time. No one has played it like him since, really.
Yeah.
Like unmatched, absolute legend.
And if you want to know, like if you're not in the know of Jimi Hendrix, watch their Woodstock performance.
Oh yeah.
And think of like just that national anthem that he performed at Woodstock meant so much to the people that were in the audience who were all anti-war, all that. And he's doing this guitar performance of the national anthem that is like sounding like bombs dropping.
Who else can make a guitar sound like a machine gun?
Nobody. Every single guitar player who has played the American national anthem since then has tried to emulate it. Nobody has.
No one ever will.
No one ever will. Like it was just such a spontaneous moment that one of the most
the stars align,
which is
definitive moments of music history.
It's like one of the things that's like really special about Jimmy too is his like live performances. He was just in the zone all the time.
He's playing with his tongue or like
behind his
setting it on fire
with his teeth between his legs. Everything.
And we've talked about Jimmy, and I think we should say like some stuff about the rest of the band because they were a good band.
Fantastic.
Jimi Hendrix will be the first to say, and he has said that he's not a great singer. He's not he always said he's not a singer.
Yeah.
But like I think personally, he says that, but he's a good singer. Like he does.
He's pretty decent.
I mean, technically wise, he's not an opera singer, but like the amount of motion he can like put into his voice that matches what's going on in the rest of the song.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. It truly is amazing. Yeah. But, when you think of Jimi Hendrix Experience, his voice is probably low on the list.
Yeah.
Because you have this backing band.
The rhythm
and
section.
I always forget the name of their drummer.
They're so tight.
Mitch Mitchell.
Is he the one with the mushroom cut? He looks like Toad.
Yeah. Dude.
That's him.
He is such a stellar drummer. He is up there on the list of drummers.
I think he's without a doubt top 10 of
I would put him top 10
rock drummers.
Yeah.
And sure. I would say like even I forget the bass player's name, but how much the bass player connected with Mitch Mitchell.
Oh my god.
It's insane.
They locked in so
It
well.
sounded, like
If you need proof of that, listen to the second half of Hey Joe.
Yeah.
When the bass plays and just listen to how locked in the bass player and Mitch Mitchell are.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable.
And I think they were one of the definitive power trios. I mean, you think of what has to happen. You need a very strong rhythm section to lock in, carry a song so that, usually it was the guitar player singing. Not all the time, but usually. So they can play the guitar parts they want. They can sing. They don't have to hold the rhythm down. And yeah, that's what Jimi Hendrix Experience were. They were this super tight and musically proficient rhythm section, held it down so Jimi Hendrix could do his magic, blow everybody's mind with his guitar playing.
Oh, and he definitely did.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, no one will ever dispute the magicianship.
It was magic. No one has matched it. No one. It's very likely no one will match it ever.
And I think this really is just an unfortunate matchup for ZZ Top.
Yeah. I have Jimi Hendrix.
When we made the list, me and you just sitting in our living room over there, thinking, I think Jimi Hendrix Experience was one of the first bands that we mentioned.
Yeah, because they defined what it was to be a rock trio.
So Rule,
I can't say anything but Jimmy.
This is a unanimous vote, and I feel so bad because ZZ Top deserves more.
Yeah,
but they are knocked out of the first round.
Oh yeah, they definitely deserve more. But and Billy Gibbons, I think, was a roadie for Jimi Hendrix at one point.
No way.
Yeah,
really?
There was the connection there, and he would agree 100%.
Oh, I'm sure. It's hard to argue with a god,
Exactly.
Going to our last matchup of the first round.
Okay.
Which I would have had a different opinion on a week ago, probably.
Yeah.
Genesis and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is a good matchup. This is a great matchup. Is a really good matchup for prog rock.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to start it?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Okay. Yeah.
And what happened to me maybe 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't really ever listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Mm-hmm. And me and Justin, when we were doing cuts, I put Emerson, Lake and Palmer on the cutting block, and Justin's like, "Really?"
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe you're doing this. And Taylor goes, I mean, they have really great harmonies and stuff, but other than that, I don't really get it.
So if you listen to their top songs on Spotify, specifically, you'll hear a lot of folk.
Yeah.
And kind of guitar-y, harmony kind of music.
Yeah.
And just so I mention this and I go through and I play the songs I listen to, and Justin goes, No.
Yeah.
What's the name of the album?
Brain Salad Surgery.
I listened to this. So he's just like, listen to this. I was like, okay. Yeah. I go, I walk my dog. I come back and I walk in starry-eyed, how the hell have I never heard this before?
Yeah.
That, all I can think in my mind, that album is drug, anxiousness.
Paranoia.
Paranoia. That whole album is absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
And great. And you think of the time, because I think it was 73, right?
73, yeah, it came out.
The sounds that they do on that album
is
bonkers. So me coming oh yeah, this is just a folk band, and turning this on and hearing this orchestral, diminished mess on top of amazing drumming, very good drumming and great supporting, and everything is very dissonant and stuff, but it makes you feel that album does nothing if not makes you feel. And I don't know if you listen to them.
Yeah, I feel like I almost have to recuse myself from this decision because I've listened to mostly just the folk, kind of classically inspired almost, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of fucked me up is when Taylor was like, oh, they're mostly known for their harmonies. I thought for sure Taylor had listened to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I was 100% convinced because I only really knew Emerson, Lake and Palmer for Brain Salad Surgery. Yeah. This crazy prog rock-ish band. So while you discovered this whole other side of them, I listened to their greatest hits after, and it was like, ooh, the lucky man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I hadn't heard the folk stuff, so kind of discovered that, through that process. So yeah, they had all these different sides. They were one of prog rock's first supergroups. They were all musicians from different established bands that came together. And to me, I think what really is going to propel them is Brain Salad Surgery. Like, musically ambitious as fuck. Great songs, great sound, great playing. Like, all you can ask for. Anything more that needs to be said about Emerson, Lake and Palmer before I move on to Genesis?
I know you're excited to chew down Genesis. Yeah. So, okay, when we get into Genesis here, I've always loved Genesis. Yeah. I love like the original lineup of Genesis. I love the Invisible Touch era of like pop Genesis. It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah.
Justin, go nuts.
Yeah. So when you're talking about Genesis, obviously the music history is they started out as this like prog rock band. Peter Gabriel left. Phil Collins took over on vocals. They become more of a pop band.
Pop band, definitely.
Now, I expected to I'll listen to the prog rock stuff. I'll be impressed. I listened to it. It was fucking garbage. I fucking hated it.
Okay, let's take it easy here.
I listened to a few of their songs. Couldn't get into it. Like, really not my thing. Funny enough, I listened to some of their pop stuff. The songs themselves were good. Like, I forget the name of them, but there was
Land of Confusion, I know you liked.
Yeah, Land of Confusion was good. The dance one.
I Can't Dance.
I Can't Dance. There was one other one I'm forgetting the name of.
Tonight?
Invisible Touch was also fucking garbage.
No! She seems to have an invisible touch, yeah!
Do you want to kill yourself after seeing that too? Or is that just
okay,
me?
well, I'm not Peter Gabriel. I guess Phil Collins at that time.
Yeah, it's, to me, it's, after pop punk, I think cheesy 80s pop is the music that has aged the worst of all time, and they had a hand in defining that.
And this does come from a bias for me, because I always say I love bad 80s music. Because I recognize it's bad.
Yeah.
But I still
you're
love
a fan,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Genesis, all that stuff.
Fuck.
Whatever tickles your gooch, man.
Whatever tickles your gooch, my man. But yeah, listening to some of the Genesis songs, I was thinking, these are great songs in and of themselves, but the instrumentation could be better. Like, it's all that very samey 80s drum beat where, they have the In the Air Tonight snare, the gated reverb.
Yeah.
Poof, ka, poof, ka,
now,
that type of
something
thing.
to be mentioned with Genesis, they were very well known for their shows.
Okay.
Because they would put on this amazing laser show and play pretty well.
Yeah.
On stage and that kind of stuff. But as much as I love Genesis, I don't know if you have more to say about this, but
I think ultimately I enjoyed Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all different sides of it, a lot more than I enjoyed all different sides of Genesis.
And as a huge Genesis fan, listening to Brain Salad Surgery, that's the name of it, right?
Yeah.
I listened to that and I like it more than anything I've heard of Genesis.
Yeah.
It hurts me to say that because I do love the Peter Gabriel era. I do love the Phil Collins era.
Yeah.
But that album,
it's so good.
It hits different,
It hits different, man.
I mean, your vote doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't really matter, but just to piss off Justin, I'm just going to go for Genesis. One of the greatest bands of all time.
And, Genesis had a massive influence
on
music.
They had a huge influence.
Like, they were one of the first, the original prog rock bands. Even though I don't like their prog rock shit, they were one of the first. They had great success with their pop songs. They had good songs. I think they could have done.
That was smooth as shit.
No, yeah. Thank you. That's my middle name.
The problem with this being a longer podcast, it just means we're gonna drink more and more beer as the podcast goes on.
Less caring about burps.
Anyway, yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer is for sure my choice.
Yeah, me too. And you went Genesis to piss off Justin. That's okay. Okay, we are on to the second round, ladies and gentlemen.
Finally, an hour and a half.
This is
gonna be a long one.
This bracket thing didn't let me update it, so I'm just gonna go from memory of who won, which is a bad idea.
This is bad. Save the two bands.
No. Okay, so the first bracket of the second round is Rush versus Nirvana.
Yeah. Ooh.
This is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
This is kind of giants.
Okay.
You know?
In terms of
let's go through the list of
So naturally in the second round we won't have to talk so much about the specific bands. We got that over with. I think Nirvana comes ahead on the influence.
100%.
Yeah.
Rush is gonna come ahead on the technicality. Proficiency.
Yes,
They were much better musicians. They could play circles around the guys.
Songwriting, I would also give it to Rush.
Okay.
It's hard though. That's a hard one.
Yeah, like in terms of songs that spoke to people, I think
Nirvana
it's Nirvana. Yeah, but in terms of musical ambition and the things they were able to do as musicians, it's Rush. Like they, put together these, songs that were, 20 minutes in length sometimes, like 2112 or Cygnus Book 1 and 2, or, like Villa Strangiato is 11 minutes. And it's just this masterclass in, prog rock songs, and there's always going to be this Canadian romanticism about it. But
sure. And it is worth noting that because of the way radio laws work, we've heard a lot more Rush than the States.
Yeah.
Because the radio has to play a certain percentage of Canadian music. And at the time, it was Rush and a couple other bands. It was Rush got a lot of radio play because of that. Yeah. So it is biased.
Yeah. Now, an interesting thing is Rush, their first break was on their first album, a song called Working Man.
Yep.
And that was because a radio station in the States picked it up.
Really?
Yeah. It was... It's either Seattle or New York or not those two cities.
That's some Taylor facts.
I'm 4 beers in. I don't know. It was one of the major cities in the States. One of the DJs heard it and was like, "Oh, I fucking love this."
It could be Seattle because they had a huge college radio network.
Yeah, it very much could be. Who knows? But they were a cool band, and they evolved so far past that first album. The first album didn't even have Neil Peart on it. It was some other drummer. Sorry to the other drummer. I forget your name, but
no, honestly, up
we
against
call the
Neil
bassist
Peart,
from
understand. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should we've spoken a lot about these two bands. To me, in terms of what a trio means, Rush were able to accomplish so much as a trio and create this dense soundscape, these really great, ambitious songs that hit the mark. I'm going Rush.
So here, I think we are pinning technical proficiency up against
cultural impact.
Yeah.
Passion and cultural impact. Because Rush, as much as, they had their passion and that kind of stuff, Nirvana was built on passion.
Yeah. Oh,
it was emotion. It did grab the audience, and it's such a hard toss up between these two bands.
It's a tough one.
I think I do lean personally more, and this is me trying to forget my biases.
Yeah.
I love Neil Peart. I do. But I think I gotta say Nirvana because of cultural impact.
Okay.
It hurts. It does hurt me to say that.
Yeah.
But I think I gotta put Nirvana above Rush.
Okay.
I would agree. You're pitting something against who's gonna enjoy this technicality versus like something really simple that the masses really enjoyed and really connected with, and even like people who are technically proficient obviously like still enjoyed it.
Oh yeah,
it's like you could get into like an 11-hour philosophical conversation about that, but for me it's got to be Nirvana.
Yeah, I respect that. I get what you guys mean for sure.
And again, it's both these bands are so amazing that
in very different ways. I mean, I think probably polar opposites in terms of the like technicality to raw passion.
And it is hard. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
It is. So it's a very hard toss up. And we signed up for a hard
toss-up,
list up here, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, so Nirvana makes it to the third round.
Okay. What's the next one?
We are going Cream up against George Thorogood. I mean,
this one's, I think,
this is a little bit of a wash.
Yeah, George Thorogood had some cool songs. Cream had better songs. They were better musicians. Had bigger influence.
It's hard to like. It would be hard to find someone who would disagree with Cream moving to the third round on this.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if much really needs to be said.
It's very hard to make a defense for Thorogood. Like, great musician. I'm sure he would, you know, look at Cream and be like,
And the argument I made earlier with George Thorogood and ZZ Top, I guess, is I would love to be listening to them in a bar.
Yeah.
I would rather be listening to Cream in a bar.
Watch them stretch out like Born Under a Bad Sign to 10 minutes. Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's an easy move forward kind of thing.
Cream. Yeah.
Who won? It was Fleetwood Mac, right? Against SRV?
Yes.
Okay, so we got Grand Funk Railroad versus Fleetwood Mac. That's a tough one. Now, this is hard for me because I don't think I didn't listen to the live albums of like the original lineup.
Yeah, they were really good. To me, it's Peter Green that shines, the guitar player from Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very interesting matchup because it's two of rock's most underrated bands out there.
And like I feel like two very different styles too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Like Fleetwood Mac, they leaned heavily on the blues. They were very much a blues rock band, but emphasis on blues. And Grand Funk Railroad had a blues influence, no doubt, but they were a rock band.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, not to mention like the funk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They had the funk. I think to me, in terms of like, they're both underrated bands. Fleetwood Mac had more songs that were covered, but in terms of, you know, the ambition of their music, what they accomplished as musicians, and realistically commercial success at the time, I think I'm going Fleetwood or Grand Funk Railroad on this.
It's hard for me to attribute like cultural impact without including, you know, the later stuff when there weren't a trio. So again, Grand Funk Railroad for me.
Yeah, and that's the same for me too. Like, especially because, you know, our band personally does take a lot from Grand Funk Railroad, so it probably is a large bias.
Yeah.
But I think the choice for us is Grand Funk Railroad. I mean, my vote doesn't matter at this point, but Grand Funk Railroad for me too.
I gotta go rock a piss. I'll be 1 second. You guys have some riff-raff. We are back.
Okay, we have the last matchup.
The second round.
Of the second round.
Okay.
We have Jimi Hendrix Experience versus Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's a wash again.
Jimmy's just, it's too much. I feel like like you should have not included him, just put him at the top right away.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they were great musicians. They did some really cool stuff. You haven't listened to them that much, right?
No.
Name one of their songs.
I can't.
You can't.
No, and like you said that you listened to the folk stuff of them. And that, like, again, that's the trap I fell into. And, you know, as much as I love that Brain Salad Surgery album, I don't think it really matches anything that Hendrix Experience put out.
Like, that's one of the really cool things about the Jimi Hendrix Experience is and this is kind of emblematic of the era they came out with. What they were pop music, but they still did some really cool stuff. I mean, like Purple Haze was not a typical pop song.
God, no.
Hey Joe, Little Wing, Voodoo Child,
Nothing,
Cross on Traffic. Like they were still experimenting. They were pushing music to new bounds.
I don't think nobody's come up with like music that still emulates that like level of craziness and creativity and still make it sound absolutely rocking.
Yeah. No, and I think we're all kind of leaning here, and we don't want to make this podcast too long.
To be fair to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they would agree. They probably wouldn't have been playing the music they were playing if it wasn't for Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
like
he influenced so many people.
Like
that it's untraceable.
If we're looking back at our criteria for technical proficiency, songwriting, commercial success, live skills, influence.
Influence is ridiculous. Like I remember, I think it was Paul McCartney was on like Stephen Colbert or some shit, and he was talking about a concert that he went, Jimi Hendrix concert that he went to, and like the names he was listing off of people who are in attendance just to be able to watch Jimi Hendrix was just like the greatest of greats of rock history.
Some of those like early London gigs, like you had the guys from Cream there, the Beatles, the guys from the Rolling Stones. Like, how do you perform in front of those guys? Like, I play the music.
The rest of the Yardbirds who don't matter.
But and he wasn't only able to play in front of those guys, he blew them away. Like, in terms of that era, like late 60s, some of the London guitarists that were there, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Peter Green, they all talk about the first time they saw Jimi Hendrix.
Had to get one in.
But yeah, they talk about the first time they saw Jimi Hendrix, and most of them, they had the reaction of, I want to quit guitar. I want to die. Like
I know Jeff Beck has said the first time he saw Hendrix, he wanted to quit guitar.
Yeah. Same thing. I think Clapton said he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah. And mind you, this wasn't a great era for Clapton, but mentally, but I think we're all in agreement here that Hendrix experience moves on.
Yeah.
And now we get into Taylor remembering who won. Okay, so Nirvana.
Yeah.
Versus Cream.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This is kind of tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, if we're comparing impact culturally and musically, this is one of the other bands of this whole thing that match up closer to Nirvana.
And Nirvana has, I think, recency bias, right?
Yeah,
like just because it was so, everybody
it was
remembers
our
them.
era that was impacted.
Yeah,
a little bit before us, but we had the bleed through of Nirvana was closer to us.
Yeah.
And I think a bias is definitely here.
Yeah.
Because of the music that me and Justin play and the music we listen to, but just thinking of cultural impact, it's hard to compare because Clapton had so many different projects.
But we're not talking about Clapton, we're talking about Cream.
I know. And like I've said my bias on Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
And
now one thing we haven't talked about that much in terms of Cream is their influence on psychedelic rock.
Okay.
They weren't the first band to play that kind of music, but they were one of the ones who stretched it out further than it's been.
Mm-hmm.
They stretched out these songs to crazy levels. They talked about like their lyrics, very poetic. Like
my God,
Jack Bruce used to write them. I forget the guy's name. Pete Brown.
Pete Brown, fantastic
he wrote
writer.
Them with a literal poet.
Yeah.
Like
he was a beat poet. Like he would go to jazz sessions and like just do beat poetry live with
kind
jazz
of Jim
happening.
Morrison style, right?
Yeah. So they had these really great songs, and a lot of people know some of the Cream songs. Like as much as it's easy to label them as like a musician's band. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows Sunshine of Your Love.
Everyone. White Room,
Oh,
stuff
just
like that.
So many great songs. Right?
I would honestly put Cream on top of Nirvana in terms of like the writing itself, like of the songs. Just it was like so poetic. Like White Room itself, like everybody's been in that position, just staring at the walls,
And trying to forget my bias here, like Nirvana was more emotional as a band.
Yeah.
Like they probably pulled. Sorry, Roll's just choking, and we're all laughing at him instead of helping him.
I like to snort my beer.
I knew a guy in first year who used to snort beer foam when he would open it.
Oh god, that's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Drunken manic. So I joined him.
This is the kind of great content that comes
Quality
over
content.
an hour and 40 minutes of a podcast. But going to Nirvana.
Now, I think Nirvana distilled their message in a more accessible way.
Yes.
Like Cream, you gotta... And I think that speaks to, how they wrote their songs. Like, they were trying to push genres. They had this great beat poet, Pete Brown, happen with the lyrics. Like, it wasn't just...
And you have to think about what like Nirvana was competing with, right? Like it was like I think 97 was their first album.
No, earlier than that.
93.
Yeah, Cobain died in
like
94. Yeah,
they were competing with like hip hop, like the coming up of hip hop, and like Biggie and Tupac,
the lowest common denominator of like Backstreet Boys, In Excess,
versus what
stuff.
like Cream was competing against.
Yeah,
like just think of it. It's what they were not competing against, but like the environment they were putting music out into.
Like they were a London band, another big London band from that era.
In the biggest,
Rolling Stones,
the craziest era of London rock.
Still, Cream managed to take the music in a different direction.
Yeah.
Like as great as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are, they don't sound anything like Cream.
No, and like it is. I mean, London never forgot rock. They're still kind of front runners for the rock genre, but it is a very hard.
It's a hard one, and it's similar to the Nirvana Rush thing, where it's different, sides of what makes a great band. To me, musicianship, Cream, influence. Probably Nirvana hit songs. Probably Nirvana.
Especially now.
Musicianship, Cream.
You already said musician.
Oh, did I say? Oh, sorry. Influence. I'm going Cream. I think it.
Really?
Yeah.
Influence on Cream?
In terms of music, like.
Who do you think really sounds like Nirvana or emulates Nirvana?
I guess influence kind of splits into two groups.
Yeah.
Of like influence on the general public and influence on music.
I think,
and we're musicians here, and I guess that does carry more
really
weight.
Loose definition. You put it on me there.
For us, not Roll.
No, you're one of us.
Justin, what is your vote here?
I'm going Cream. I think it's
Roll.
very close.
I gotta go Cream.
And my vote doesn't matter, but it was Cream.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to argue with that, right? Like.
I mean, even just in terms of how much I enjoyed listening to it. Like, I'm definitely like bopping my head a lot more than like Nirvana, where I'm just like, oh yeah, true, bro.
I feel it. Yeah. Okay, now we get down to. Who won out of Grand Funk Railroad and Fleetwood?
Grand Funk Railroad, I think.
Grand Funk Railroad, and then Hendrix.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Take a look at my bracket here. Double check my work. Dot the T's. Cross the I's.
I feel like every time Jimmy was a Bosch.
Rush over the Police, Nirvana over Motorhead, Nirvana over the Rush, Cream over REM, Thorogood over Mountain, Cream. Good. Grand Funk Railroad over Green Day, Fleetwood Mac over Stevie Ray Vaughan, Grand Funk Railroad. Okay, so yeah, you're right. It's Jimi Hendrix versus Grand Funk Railroad.
This is really anybody matched up against Jimmy is a really, really tough matchup.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a hard matchup.
I fucking love Grand Funk Railroad. I fucking love the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Grand Funk Railroad are one of the best underrated bands of all time, but they are underrated. Jimi Hendrix
is
are
not
appropriately rated, and they're rated very highly. Like,
musicians today still draw influence from him.
Absolutely. Like, they still draw influences from both bands, more so Hendrix.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the guys in Grand Funk Railroad would be like awestruck that they're even being compared to Hendrix.
And of course they are listening.
Yeah, of course. Hey, Mark Farner, how's it going, buddy?
I mean, your mom talked to the manager, right? They should be.
Baritones, don't pretend you didn't.
Yeah, but it's, as much as I want there to be a contest, there's no contest. It's got to be Hendrix.
Yeah, Hendrix.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth for Grand Funk Railroad here.
Grand Funk Railroad, they made it deep, and they
and a huge influence on Baritones.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't understate that. All these bands are amazing, right? Yeah. But now we get down to, of course, my vote is Hendrix.
Yeah.
We get down to the final two. Honestly, I predicted would be the final two.
It's Hendrix and Cream, right?
Hendrix and Cream.
This is exactly what I thought it would come down to. So
yeah, it makes sense.
This is a tough one. I don't even know how to
argument. I
don't even think, first of all, that Jimi Hendrix and Cream play the same style of music. They
the
psych rock of Jimmy is versus just the blues of hardcore. Obviously, expanding on the blues for Cream, but
so I think what we need to do here is go through each part because they have the same parts, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Guitar. You think of. Well, Eric Clapton.
That's not probably the hardest match.
Okay, let's go to guitar last then. Let's go drummer. You have Mitch Mitchell up against Ginger Baker.
Even that, it's oof.
Okay. Yeah. I will say my part here.
Okay, you're the drummer, so yeah.
And again, this is also apples to oranges because Mitch Mitchell is a rhythm drummer.
Yeah.
Where Ginger Baker is a melodic drummer.
Yeah. He has more of a jazz influence, right?
They both have really strong jazz influences.
Both of them came from jazz musicians. Ginger Baker took that jazz influence head on, and he would challenge jazz drummers and beat them most of the time, to be honest. Because Mitch Mitchell came from jazz. Ginger Baker never left jazz.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. I personally, it's so A1, A2.
Yeah.
But Ginger Baker would just barely make it above Mitch Mitchell.
Yeah. To me, they both belong in the top 5 all-time rock drummers.
Yes. I don't think I would argue with that.
Yeah. They are creme de la creme. Cream de la cream.
Yeah.
They're both fantastic. It's tough to say. I think in terms of the dynamic of the bands they were in, Mitch Mitchell, his job, support Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Support Jimmy.
And with Cream, it's not necessarily support Eric. No. It's support whoever needs to be supported. Yeah. And sometimes
be the main part.
Be the main part. Exactly.
Be the guy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so there is that trade-off, whereas in Hendrix, there is sometimes that trade-off, but not as much.
Yeah.
That's because everyone in Cream is playing so melodically or playing the part that they need to let someone else play melodically that they can do that.
They all had an ego, or musically, right? When they were playing. They all had an individual voice that you could hear in Cream,
and it came
versus Jimi Hendrix, where the relationship between Mitch Mitchell and the bassist was just so good.
Yeah.
How do you compare those?
So I think we're talking about the musicians. I think the defining factor does come down to the bassist. And I think
it's a tough one to pick. Yeah.
Personally, I would put forget his name, Hendrix Experience.
Noel Redding. Yeah.
Noel Redding. I'd put him above.
Really? Okay.
I'd be you listen to the supporting parts that he's doing. Hey Joe.
Yeah.
The ending bass line to that is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's din 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 din. I know
that chromatic, walk up is fantastic.
And it to me it sounds very John Paul Jones. Almost that's where there was some influence, you know? But in the reverse order, but
John Paul Jones would have been influenced.
Exactly. That's what I meant, right? And I say that Redding is maybe it's
so there's an interesting historical aspect to this because So Jimi Hendrix, he had a pretty short career, right?
Yeah,
he
really short.
First album came out in 1967. I think the band got together like late 1966. And then he died in 1971. So it's 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of that time, he was with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. But after that, he formed the Band of Gypsies. And what's kind of particular about that is initially he kicked out Noel Redding. He got rid of it and kept Mitch Mitchell, and then got this other bassist, Billy Cox, that he'd known before. Jimi Hendrix and Noel Redding had some clashes. Jimi Hendrix was a perfectionist. He really, like, in the studio would go kind of mental and just, focus super hard on all this stuff. A lot of times, and later on, would rewrite the bass lines and play them himself over Noel Redding's part. And that really pissed off Noel. Understandably.
There is something to be said, and this is a true fact about all music. Like, good musicians are hard to work with.
Yes.
And there's a reason. Because good musicians at that level have an exact ideal of what the song will sound like.
They hear the music they want to hear in their head, and they want to replicate it to the T,
Yeah.
And it's really tough to get around that. But yeah, so I think that's an interesting aspect, that Jimi Hendrix phased out Noel Redding and kept Mitch Mitchell on for a number of years, and eventually got a different drummer. I forget the guy's name, but
not important.
Yeah. Now, to me, it's kind of a wash between Jack Bruce and Noel Redding. I think they're both great. I think they both did an amazing job. Jack Bruce had more of a role in the songwriting of his band than Noel Redding did, so there's something to consider there. And Jack Bruce was singing for most of Cream.
Yeah.
Like, Clapton didn't really start singing until like late into Cream and after. Like, I think the only song he sung really in Cream was Crossroads.
It was mostly background vocals for him, right?
Mostly. So
where we go from there is live performances.
Yeah, and
still, again,
either of these deserve first.
Yeah.
Both of them do deserve first, but we're not going to say that. We're going to choose a definite one here.
Now, in terms of live performances, I love the Jimi Hendrix Experience. They had some great live performances. They also had some kind of shit ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I've heard some ones that are like, ooh. And I think that's also, speaks to their band philosophy of Jimmy was trying to push the boundaries of what was being played in terms of volume, in terms of, musical character. And
like, they were crushed. They were like ripping their way through Marshall stacks.
Oh, like just
every tour.
Them up. Yeah. It was nuts. Like, they were pushing the technology to a new level. And, to get kind of guitar nerdy with it, he had this guy, Roger Mayer, making him these custom guitar effects that, again, were pushing it to the next level. Now, when you're pushing things that far, you get some really great stuff. Sometimes you get some not so great stuff.
I think the way I would look at it is Jimi Hendrix had higher peaks.
Yeah.
Cream
more
was more consistent
in terms of live performances.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we talked about drummer to drummer, bassist to bassist, guitarist to guitarist.
That's really hard. There's a reason why we didn't talk about this yet.
It's a really tough comparison to make. Now, I think there's, value in leaning on the historical aspect of it, of when Jimmy came to London, Eric Clapton was, like many other London guitar players, like, what the fuck? How the fuck am I supposed to match up to this dude?
Yeah.
And in the Cream days, Eric Clapton played mostly Gibson guitars, like Les Pauls, SGs, 335s. Mm-hmm. After seeing Hendrix, he switched to Stratocasters.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He one of the first guitarists to have a signature Fender Stratocaster was Eric Clapton.
Yep.
And he credits Hendrix with that influence.
Mm-hmm.
It is a really hard comparison to make, I think, in terms of like who innovated the most, who defined what it meant to be a guitarist the most.
Hendrix.
Yeah.
Like, no one played like Hendrix before. People tried afterwards.
You can't imagine Jimmy without a guitar in his hand, right? Like, just absolutely shredding.
Yeah.
I mean, but the same goes for Clapton.
Same goes for Clapton. And this is not to discount the influence he had. Like, to me, they're both in the top 3 guitarists of all time.
And everything Clapton touched turned to gold.
Yeah.
Like, he had Midas's touch. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, whether it was the Yardbirds that turned to Led Zeppelin or, like, everything he was involved in just turned to gold.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But we have to make a decision here.
Yeah, in terms of guitar players, it's got to be Hendrix.
Yep.
Now, we got to make a final call on what band goes first.
We're going to let Rahul talk first.
Yeah, you go first.
I got to go for Jimi Hendrix. I mean, just the psychedelia of it all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I've never tripped like that. Like I have been listening to Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. He just reaches another level that just touches your soul.
Very great world expanding vision with his music.
I mean, just the level of abstraction he was able to take guitar to.
Yeah.
And just make it sound like anything he wanted it to. It's got to be Jimmy. I mean, plus the locked in rhythm section.
Yeah.
It's got to be Jimi Hendrix.
When I think of these, it really is like both could be deserving of this. But I'm going to use my bias here, and I'm going to say Cream.
Okay.
Mostly just to put the pressure on Justin to decide. But also because that's where my personal bias draws me to. I think of consistency. I think of live shows. Hendrix has more peaks in live shows. He really does. But Cream, in my opinion, didn't have a bad live show. Yeah. And Ginger Baker is such an influence on me. I'm going to say Cream.
Okay.
Justin, it's on you.
Pressure's on me. So I take this very seriously. Like, these are 2 of my favorite bands of all time. 2 of my favorite guitar players of all time. 2 of my favorite drummers. 2 of my favorite bassists of all time. Yeah. Like, I love these 2 bands like few others. I think I gotta go Hendrix. In terms of impact, in terms of hit songs, I think it goes to Hendrix.
And I don't think anyone could ever be upset with that. We have the definitive right here.
Yeah. Objective.
Objective
decision. Best power trio of all time.
Best rock trio of all time is the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Jimi Hendrix Experience.
And I don't think anyone can argue with that.
Yeah, it's how do you?
Like, 2 hours into the podcast, we finally have a definitive.
We've done it. Anyway, like, I think, we can talk about other stuff, but
what's left to be said? Yeah.
What's left to be said. And you guys can, if you have any information that you want to add or give your opinion, email us at louderthanthefridge@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I check those every so often. We've gotten a couple emails. Thank you guys for the emails.
You haven't shared any of them with me. They're not good. We don't actually have emails. Is it all Costa Rica saying stop fucking saying my name?
Get your dick bigger right now with this one simple solution.
Shout out to the
stop sending me those emails.
Shout out to the one listener we have in Stockholm right now.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to that guy or girl,
buddy,
or non-binary. It doesn't matter. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Roll, is there anything you want to shout out?
Thanks for having me, guys. No, it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. It's been good. Thank you for breaking the ties.
We needed a third, and you were a perfect third.
And I say this not sarcastically at all. Thank you for your valuable input to this conversation.
It was very useful.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
We would have killed each other at the Genesis and Emerson, Lake and Palmer debate. So
hey, we agreed on it.
We did agree.
Yeah, I was the only one to disagree.
Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate if you're on Apple Music, follow, whatever the fuck you do.
Yeah.
Anyways, hope you guys have a great one, and we'll be back hopefully next week with a new one.
Power to you for sticking through 2 hours of this shit.
Cheers, guys.
Take care. Also got to mention Van Halen. Bye.